Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the scene that I'm going to be drawing today. A little bit unusual for me. I'm slightly out of my comfort zone with this one, but I thought, hey, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So as you can see, I've put the grid lines on it. I'm going to be using the grid method today for this. I was looking at some of the horse drawings that Lena Line was doing, some of the drawings that she sent to me, and I got really inspired to actually have a go at drawing horses. So I found this image and I thought that's a really nice composition. There's like a little story to it there, you know, the interaction between the horse and the little girl. You just wonder what that horse is thinking, don't you, being led along by a little tiny tot like that. I thought it was an amazing photo, so I thought I've just got to draw this. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. It's going to be a real-time demo, but it's going to be like some of the previous ones where they're very much edited. You know, a lot of the boring stuff and the time-consuming stuff has been taken out. But I'll be showing you sort of in sections, you know, what I actually do. And also, I'm going to be using some pencils which you haven't seen me use before. I've had them for a while. I don't often use them much, but I thought for this they'd be ideal. And it's the Conte Peirre Noire 1710 pencils. Now, I'd love to tell you what they are, whether they're charcoal or carbon, but I honestly haven't got a clue. And it seems like nobody else has either. I've tried to research it online to see exactly what they are. Some people say that they're a sort of an oil-based charcoal pencil. Other people say they're a carbon pencil. To me, they feel somewhere in between the two, so who knows what they are. They're just very black. In fact, I've done a bit of a colour chart here. Let me just move that out of the way. Just before I started the drawing, I was deciding which pencils to actually use, and I decided on the Conte because particularly the 3B, it's a very soft, highly saturated black. It feels like, if you've ever used like one of those China marker pencils, it kind of feels like that. It's kind of a little bit sort of oily or waxy. So I decided to use these, and this is the chart. As you can see, they smudge, you know, quite well, and they erase fairly well. All this type of thing, you know, carbon pencils, there is a bit of a difficulty with erasing some of them. Even with the Derwent charcoal pencils, they smudge really easily. I mean, charcoal just naturally does, and they erase fairly well too. And the Staedtler Mars Lumograph Black just there, not quite as black as the Conte, so that's why I decided to go for them. Now, I will put a link in the description, an Amazon link if you're interested in these, but a word of warning, they are very, well, they're not scratchy, they're actually very, very smooth, probably one of the smoothest pencils you'll ever use, but you can't draw a 1-inch square or shade in a 1-inch square without getting some grit in the end there. So be prepared for that if you do buy these, but I think they're worth it. I think they're worth sort of working through that gritty business just to get some of these nice smudgy blacks that you can get. They come in 5 different grades, from H, HB, B, 2B and 3B. The two that I'm going to be using today are the 3B and the H, the lightest and the darkest. Okay, let's move this out of the way. And the kit that I'm going to be using, the rest of the kit that I'm going to be using, should I say, is the Derwent sketching paper. What's that? That's an HB pencil, Kohinoor pencil eraser. Lena could put me onto those actually, they're absolutely fantastic. I'll put a link in the description for those as well. The Tombow fine points eraser, a 2H pencil, it's in the Staedtler pencil holder, I'll link that as well. A couple of paper blenders, the Kohinoor HB woodless pencil, blue tack, which I use as a kneadable eraser, dust brush, and just a standard eraser for erasing out the grid lines when I finish with them. I think that's about it, so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I've got the pencil drawing all drawn out ready. I used a 2H pencil for that. It's not very accurate, but it's near enough. I'm quite happy with it. So now I'm going to use the eraser and just take out the grid lines that are going to be where the distant trees are there. I don't really want them showing through. So out they come. And I'm just covering over the pencil drawing now so I don't smudge it. I'm using the Kohinoor HB woodless pencil for the background trees. And as you can see, I've rounded the tip over a little bit. I don't really want it, needle sharp or anything, and digging into the paper making any dark lines or anything, because once I've filled this area in, I'm going to blend it to oblivion and really sort of soften it off and fade it out as much as I can. So any sharp pencil marks, won't look very good. So if you're doing this one at home, I suggest that you just round the tip of the pencil off a little bit. And I'm using just sort of scribbly pencil marks. That's a technical term. I'm varying the pressure so I get sort of lights and darks and a few mid-tones, so that when I blend it all out, it's not just one solid flat tone. Hopefully, some of those more subtle tones will stay there, but they'll all kind of blend in and just look faded, but still register as a variation in tones. I'm really not too bothered what the background looks like, really, as long as it doesn't sort of conflict with the horse and the little girl. I want that to be the main sort of centre of interest, the main focus of the picture, obviously. So I really don't mind how the background turns out, as long as it just looks blurry and faded. That'll be good enough. So I'm just sort of working in circular motions and little tiny ovals, just to kind of blend all this background in. And again, I'm still not too worried about what the final result looks like, because I'm going to go over it again with the kneadable eraser and really fade it back and lighten it up and get that sort of out of focus look if I possibly can. I'm just using the 2H pencil and the HB pencil just to add in a few darker tones and to try and be a bit more deliberate with the tree shapes. So I'm doing exactly what I said I didn't want to do, but I couldn't resist just seeing what it looked like. But I thought, no, it's too much detail. It's going to sort of conflict with the horse and the little girl. So I thought, no, we'll just kind of blend that in, and I'll dab all that out with the kneadable eraser. But if you're doing this, you can put as much detail in as you like, really. So as you can see, I'm sort of dabbing over now with the eraser, and I've more or less completed the left-hand side of the background. It's very simple. It's just literally just dabbing with the eraser. I'm leaving the graphite on the eraser because once it's coated with graphite, it doesn't seem to pull up quite so much, and you get more of a softer blend, if you like, or erased mark if you do that. And once I've finished going over it with a kneadable eraser, I just, a few gentle sweeps over with a soft brush, and that'll just soften everything back just nicely. Right, so now it's time to start work on the figure. I'm using the lighter of the two Conte pencils, so this is the H, and I'm just putting in a basic tone. And again, I'm just kind of varying the pressure just a little bit where it's slightly darker on the right hand side. As it gets more towards the left hand side, it starts to get just a little bit lighter. And I'm using like a two-part process, really. I'm starting with the H pencil, and then I'm blending in quite firmly with the blender to actually push the pigment or the charcoal, whatever you want to call it, into the paper, because the grain on the Derwent paper is quite open, and it shows all the little marks, the little white pin marks where the graphite's not getting into there. So I'm kind of forcing it in with the blender and then going over the whole area with the 3B pencil to get that nice flat sort of black look. And then, as you just seen a minute ago, I go in with the pencil eraser and just take out a few highlights on the top of the hair. And now I'm using the HB pencil just to start shading in some of the areas on the clothes. The shirt actually had a checked pattern on there, but I decided to leave that out and just leave it as a plain white shirt, and just sort of add a little bit more with the shading just to make it look a bit nicer. Whenever you're copying from a reference photo or from real life, it's always best to spend some time before you actually start with the pencils, or any line drawings or anything. Just spend a bit of time, 5 or 10 minutes, just observing the reference and almost visualise the finished drawing in your mind and how you're going to actually do it step by step. And that'll really help you throughout the process of the drawing, to have a rough idea of each stage as you get to it. And spend quite a lot of time looking at the reference photo. Spend as much time looking at the reference photo as you are actually drawing. It really is a game of observation, when you're working from a reference. Okay, so now I'm using the H Conte pencil again to start drawing in the horse. I'm pretty much doing that same process of laying down a first layer of graphite or charcoal. I really don't know what to call these pencils. Carbon, charcoal, I don't know. But anyway, I'm laying down a first layer, blending it in, and then going over with the 3B pencil to get the dark areas in there. Now when it comes to actually drawing the mane or the hair on the horse, I'll show that more in detail on the tail of the horse because it's a larger area. So you don't really see too much of me drawing the front part of the horse. I actually skip the video forward a little bit, or should I say edit, quite a large part of the drawing out of the front of the horse, because it was kind of small and it was awkward. And at the back of the horse we've got the nice big back legs there and the tail there, and it'll be a lot easier to see and for me to explain actually what's going on. But I more or less just completed the front part of the horse using the same method, a couple of layers and blending it in. Right, okay, so now we're on the back part of the horse. I'm using the H pencil again, and I'm just lightly shading in the top part of the horse. I'm trying to get a nice even lay down of the, here we go again, carbon, graphite, I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm trying to get a nice even lay down of it. And just fade it lighter as it comes further down the back leg of the horse, as it works its way down into the lighter areas there. And then when I've sort of just done that little section there, I'll just go in with the blender and I'll completely smooth all that in, and you'll see how smooth and how nice you can actually get the blends to work with this type of pencil. Although this kind of medium is not particularly easy to blend. It's not like graphite or pure charcoal. It does take some work, so you have to spend a little bit of time doing it, but it's worth it in the end because you can really get some nice smooth transitions between the lights and the darks. Now the paper blender that I'm using is not really one of the softer types. It's quite firm, it's quite stiff. It's more like a tortillon, which probably would have been a better option for trying to blend this type of media out. So if you are drawing along at home or you're going to try these pencils out, if you're using one of the softer type paper blenders like one of the Derwents, which are ideal for graphite, it might not be so good for doing this type of thing. So I'd probably go for a Tortillon or a very hard paper blender. That will give you the best results. And as you can see, I've filled in that back section of the leg there, and it's really blending in nicely now. And when that's done, I'm going to go straight in with the 3B pencil to put the darker shadow areas in at the bottom part of the leg there. And it'll sit really nicely over the blended area because there's no sort of gaps in the paper showing or anything like that. It'll just sort of glide straight on there and give a nice coverage. But you will still need to blend this in, and you'll notice that this is where the magic happens. Once you've laid down that sort of second coat, if you like, of the 3B pencil, you can see it here now. As you're actually blending, it really starts to take on that sort of jet black, that sort of matte jet black look. So the key to using these pencils really is in the blending for achieving all the different effects. Okay, and when that's all nicely blended in, I'm going in with a pencil eraser and starting to draw out the highlights. It's an ideal tool for this because the harder you press, the whiter the mark. Then if you ease off a little bit, particularly on the transitions, you can get some really nice blends. So you can actually use the pencil eraser as almost a blending tool for getting nice soft transitions between highlights and the darker areas. And of course you can use the blender as well to soften out some of the edges. Okay, so it's onto the tail. Now I'm going to be using pencil strokes more or less in the direction that the hair is growing or flowing. That's one of those pencil tips, isn't it? Always draw in the direction that something's flowing or growing, I think it is to say. And again, I'm starting off with the H pencil for this and varying the pressure as I work down the tail. So I was pressing a little bit harder for the darker areas, and again I'm observing what's in the photo there, but I'm not copying it exactly. You know, if I just see a darker area, I'll just kind of press a little bit harder with the pencil. A lighter area, I'll just ease off a little bit. But as long as I get something that just sort of resembles a horse's tail, I'll be happy. So that's all I'm worried about at the moment. Just getting the lights and darks there, and then I know I'll be off to a good start. Okay, so once all that's completed, it's time to blend again. As you're probably aware now, it's that same pattern all throughout the drawing. It's get that first layer down, blend it in, and then to start work on top of it with either the eraser or a darker pencil. So, you know, do spend a little bit of time blending this in to get it nice and even. Even add a few more layers of graphite, charcoal, whatever it is, just to darken it up a little bit more if it needs it. And then when you're happy with it, just start to pull out a few little highlights with the fine Tombow eraser. I wouldn't go mad with this. I'd be fairly subtle with this. and just pull out just, you know, the very sort of tips of the highlights, and don't get carried away with trying to draw every hair in or anything like that. I mean, it's not a problem if you do. I mean, you can always go back in with a pencil and darken it off again, which I'm sort of doing right now. I was a bit carried away there, putting too many highlights around the base of the tail. And then just blend that back a little bit if it looks too much. Just a few more little highlights just to finish it off. And that'll just about do it, I think. Just a little bit more detail on the foreground. And I think we'll call that one done. So yeah, I'm quite impressed with the Conte pencils, even though we don't know what they are. I hope somebody does, and they might leave a comment. That'll be good. Yeah. So, right, the picture's just about finished. There's a reference photo with the grid, and there's a finished drawing. So I hope that was useful to you and helped you out in some way. Thanks very much for viewing. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.